Hello, everybody. It is me, Pacific. I wanted to share some thoughts with you. Not like I haven't covered this subject before, but yesterday worked hard at work, left work, hooked up with a friend of mine. She and I went to dinner, and then we went to a free concert in the park. It was a group called Wash Park that played Stevie Wonder, Bruno Mars songs, and stuff from that era, and some from the present era. And they were pretty good. But I watched people. It was all whites, all whites. And I wanted to say something. This is just my personal observation of people watching. The woman I'm with has a boyfriend. She's not somebody I'm interested in. She's older than me, and we just went to do something. She brought her little fold chair with the little post that you pull out, sit down in it with the cup holders and all that. And I noticed everybody had that. And I noticed, and I'm sorry, people are going to think, oh my gosh, Pacific, women with their little fanny packs or their boring backpack and their bright colored shoes and their dowdy colored shorts. And I don't know what it is, but I've noticed white women today. Now, I admit, I'm not a fashion statement. But women spend all this money on stuff at the malls, and at the end of the day, I don't see anybody dressed in a way that's like, wow, that's a really nice outfit. I look at American women and they don't know how to dress anymore. But as I looked, mostly families. There were some individuals that were single and alone, and it was weird. I was just watching people. Woman comes up, and this is, I told you, Colorado's fiercely independent. And a woman's up there, and the music's playing, and all she's doing is... And I watch people in their own little world there. No interaction with anybody. People bring their dogs. Dog is tangling the leash around their legs, and the dog is jumping up on them and everybody else. But there's no interaction. The only time there's an interaction is when a dog comes close to somebody, and then somebody will talk to the dog. And the most well-adjusted people I saw were the toddlers, all the way up into 4 or 5 years old, that were running around playing with each other. And I watched the adults. There were some good songs they sang. And it's funny watching people how conservative they are in public. But there was a couple times I wanted to, dance. And they even said from the stage, you can get up and dance, just don't come on the stage. And it was really weird because there was one woman with 2 dogs on a leash. And she's up there the whole time. I mean, having her own little party. Nobody's around her. Somebody else way over here, another woman's up there. And then an older woman walks by with a blah yellow shirt on with a turtle on it that says slow down. And I'm like, man, this woman's not moving fast as it is. She wasn't a senior citizen. And I looked around and I looked at faces and I see zombies. And I see women that are in their 20s, 30s laying down and then sitting up and texting. And their interaction with their families even limited, but I noticed that the families are kind of clique-like. But there's no, hi, how are you, or smiling or looking over at each other. And I thought, some people would say, this is Colorado, this is living, this is great. I noticed something this morning. The internet's down. I couldn't get on last night when I got home. I can't get on this morning. When I'll be able to upload this video, I don't know. But I'm eating breakfast right now. In 1989, when I moved to Duluth, there was no laptops, no internet, no cell phones. I mean, cell phones were for the privileged few, and they were the size of a brick. I didn't even have a car. I had sold my 78 Chevy van. And I lived hand to mouth. I rode the city bus to work. I didn't even have a landline for the first year of living in Duluth. And don't get me wrong, I got bored, but back then, I'd walk down to Lake Superior and I'd meet people and they would talk to you. I'd go out in a snowstorm and go walking. I'd get on the city bus and I met one of my first girlfriends there. And it was easy to meet people. I was in my 20s. It was a university town. And there were still your snob, stuck-up, feminist women. But I didn't notice them as much because I had many pretty women that talked to me, that I had my group of friends that on a Saturday I could walk to the laundromat, do that, and then go walk to Gloria's house and then Tina's house and, meet up with my lady friends. Yesterday, one of our top salesmen, he's the top salesman for the corporation nationwide for selling used trucks, pulled down $225,000 last year. He's originally from the East Coast, very nice guy. He went back east. He went out deep sea fishing with his family. He saw his mother and his brothers and sister, brought his wife, had a great time. And he was telling me yesterday as I dropped off a truck and I'm riding back, and he says, I went back to my town, and he said the sporting goods store that was right in the neighborhood is closed and gone. Now, what started that conversation, he says a bowling alley in the neighborhood where I live has shut down. I said, what? He said, yeah. He says, bowling is a dying sport. And I said, you know what I've noticed? It seems like everything's dying except technology. And he says, that's dead right. He says, when I was growing up, we went fishing, we played football, we were riding bikes. And I said, yeah, we were riding bicycles, rolling a tire down the street, running around the neighborhood with other kids. I said, when's the last time you've gone into a neighborhood and see kids running around that aren't getting into trouble? Last night I left Clement Park, which is supposed to be a good area of town that's over by the lovely Columbine High School where the big massacre happened back in 1999. That's actually upper middle class over there. As my friend and I were leaving, all through the parking lot were teens hanging out, tough girl with a baseball hat on, skinny little thing that any one of us could snap like a toothpick, standing there with the hull, checking everybody out. And I said, do you see the attitude on that chick? She goes, oh yeah. And they're standing around staring at every car that goes through. And I thought, wow, you guys are so freaking tough. You're standing around, probably don't have jobs, summertime, and you're all going to think you're all that and then some. But what are teens doing today? I have no idea. I work with them, but you don't see them running around the neighborhoods. I drive through neighborhoods in Denver area, and you don't see people out in the yards playing anymore. Once in a while, you'll see a mother with a wading pool and a couple little toddlers, but kids running around playing? No. And I was thinking at the concert last night as I looked at people that are too afraid to be expressive. The ones that were being a little too weird the other way. And the ones that are standing there and they're trying to be all conservative. Here's a rock band. I look at everybody and I thought they look like a bunch of freaking zombies over here. That nobody's going to get up and go, oh yeah. And a couple people did it, but they were doing it to the excessive where, boy, that woman's being strange over here. Colorado. And the salesman said this. He's from the East Coast. I said, Colorado is not friendly. He says, no, it isn't. I said, the neighbors don't talk to you. Even here we got a neighbor. He always says hi to me. They rent the house, a house that borders the property. I always come out and say hi. His girlfriend is a white girl, stuck up. And I've always tried to be nice, but will not. She's got the whole body language. And it's funny, she comes out one day with a t-shirt on, no bra. She's much younger than me. Lifts up her arm. You see all the black stubble, and you're like, ew. And her whole body language is, I'm so cool. I thought, wow. Then I called my friend in New England this morning, the one who lives in Vermont, and he's been dealt a bad blow. He's been dealt a real bad blow. His wife has always hit him, beat on him, and he never struck back. Well, a few months ago, he had enough and shoved her. Not hard, but shoved her. She got one little scratch on her face. She hit the couch or something. Called the police. And today he goes to court to find out about the domestic charges. And he cannot see his son, who he is very close to. Mother does nothing with the son. Mother is hugely obese. And I've tried to get along with her. I've talked to her on the phone, and she seemed to be an interesting but rather abrupt, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of your homespun, surly kind of gal, but she had a personality that was interesting. And my friend loves her, in spite of all that. And they've had their marital troubles. Last year, she was getting online and hooking up with people and having all these secret accounts. She's never actually hooked up with somebody. My friend found out about it and confronted her, and she exploded. She doesn't manage her money. He's in his 50s. And so is she. Because of the domestic charge, the assault charge, domestic violence, there's a restraining order against him. He can't come anywhere near him or her, yet they work in the same place, but there's an exception lifted that he can go to work, but he can't see his own son. His son and him were close. They play tennis together, they do things together. He moved to a small town up the road, got himself an apartment. He says, you know what, I actually have peace now. He's praying to God, he's reading the Bible, he's going to church on Saturday, he's Seventh-day Adventist, and he says, honestly, if she wants a divorce, I'll sign. And this is where Christianity gets sticky. I've been around people that say the only biblical grounds for divorce is for marital unfaithfulness, meaning adultery. And I ask that question over and over. Does that mean even if your spouse doesn't commit adultery, but they're beating on you, you're not allowed in God's eyes to get a divorce? I'm going to give you my explicit opinion, because the scripture does seem to give only one out for divorce. Actually, two. One is death of a partner, or two is adultery, somebody committing adultery in the marriage. One thing I want to be careful about is when we talk about scripture is that Jesus Christ did not cover everything that we should do or not do. There's nothing in the scripture about the internet. There's nothing about television. There's nothing about smoking cigarettes. There's nothing about speeding in your car, direct, verbatim. I mean, how do we determine what's right and wrong? I'm what's called a biblical literalist. Unless Jesus, it says he told a parable. And there are some scriptures that are allegory. Unfortunately, some people come to Revelation and say that's all allegory and that already took place during the Roman Empire. No, it didn't. And we have a lot of unstable, unskilled people out there claiming to know the Word of God and not rightly dividing it. And we have to use discernment when we come to any passages of Scripture. We need to look at the context, the crowd that he's speaking to, the time when it was written. What do you do when you're married to a spouse who's an alcoholic? You're supposed to stay in that marriage when they don't change year after year after year? What about a drug addict? What about a gambling addict? What about a shopaholic? What about your spouse beats you and beats you and beats you? But Jesus said, except for marital unfaithfulness. If you go back to what Jesus said, Moses permitted divorce because of the hardness of your hearts. Do you think that that's changed because Moses is not here? I don't think so. The Bible says, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with all men. Does that mean a woman is supposed to take being beat up just so she can be at peace with her husband? Pacific's explicit opinion on the matter is that I think any woman has a right to divorce her man for beating her. And I believe any man has a right to divorce his woman if she's beating him. I cannot prove that by Scripture, but it seems to me that God would never call two people to stay together when one is violently abusive. What about verbal abuse? Emotional abuse. Emotional abuse can be this way. Boy, you look like crap today. Boy, you're sure gaining weight. You look like dog throw up. Is somebody supposed to stay in a relationship and put up with that? The Bible says to turn the other cheek. But then we get into that. Does that mean that we're always supposed to just take it, take it, take it? They told the authorities go down and release Paul, and Paul says, no, I'm a Roman citizen. You have the authorities themselves come down. He stood on his rights. When do we stand on our rights, and when do we relinquish them? It's not an easy thing to know, is it? Pacific watched last night more than the concert performers. I watched the spectators. Saw a woman who was slender with her little sad-looking dog with one of those what I call smashed-in faces. You know, the big eyes and the cheekbones all the way up here. I don't know what they are. The little dog was laying on the grass and just looking at me, and I thought, oh, what a cute little thing. She was not what I would call hotly attractive. She had a baseball hat on, and she's sitting there, but she's alone. I watched different women with sleeveless shirts with the salon tan, sitting alone, and then two other flaky women come up, oh hi, and hug, and everybody wanders off. And then I watched people. And America has become a place where, yeah, you can do whatever you want. You can be in a crowd of people. You don't have to say hi. You don't have to smile. You don't have to do anything. As the music was blasting into the beautiful Colorado evening, and it was beautiful last night, I'm on the hill looking down, and my mind drifts off. She had her chair. She sat down. I stood because there was goose poop everywhere, and I wasn't going to sit on that. And suddenly I just thought, boy, I wish I could just turn into an eagle right now and just go and just take off. Then I found my insecurity rising again. I looked towards the southwest over the Colorado Rockies and thought, that's the direction of Asia. One of the reasons that I got so caught up in yellow fever and all that is because all my life I've desired intimacy. I've desired community. In the last over a decade of my life, I haven't had it at all. And the diagnosis right now, as it stands, doesn't look good for the future. If that ever happening. Then as I called my friend in New England, I said, man, I can't get on the internet today. I could get into Skype, but I can't get into anything. And I found myself going, man, if I had no internet, what would I do in my off time? You could be like these guys when they're not doing their various projects. She'll sit for hours in front of the TV. Loud TV. Yesterday, I went to say good morning to her. She got up early, went in the garden, and she was talking about that some expert of earthquake stuff is saying there's going to be a big earthquake in the Pacific Northwest. And I said, you know what? They've been doing this ever since I was, oh, no, but this guy, I said, this guy is no different than a long line of others. That California was going to have the big one. That LA was going to have the big one. That we got into a lively debate. She said, you just think you know it all. I said, you've said that to your husband. And I politely said, your husband has told you that you watch so much news that you live in fear of everything and what ifs. I said, do you remember a couple of weeks ago, the hailstorm? That you said that out of all the news channels, there was one that you said was most reliable for weather reporting. And you came in saying they're forecasting golf ball hail, and you were panicking about your flower pots. I said, with all due respect, I said, we got vehicles, we got the tenants next door and their vehicles. Golf ball-sized hail would ruin your roof. It would bust out the skylights. You'd have another insurance job. It would destroy our vehicles, pings in the metal, and break glass. And you're worried about flower pots. And by the way, did you notice that never came? And she shocked me by this. Well, that's because I prayed. I said, really? How about 30 miles east where the farmers are, and they lose all their crops? Well, they must not have prayed. I said, there's Christian farmers out there. You think they're not praying for God's hand of protection? I said, do you really think you have more faith in that God's concerned about a couple flower pots versus a crop that can actually feed a lot of people? And her answer to that was yes. God cares about every detail of my life. Really. We got people dying in dire poverty. We got people living in squalor. We got people that can't even get ministry tools in their churches in third world countries. And God's going to shut down the universe over a couple of flower pots. I said, do you know how ridiculous that sounds? I can't even talk to you. I shouldn't have even mentioned this. I said, I've studied earthquakes and I don't know everything. But I said, no one can predict when one's going to hit. Oh, but all the experts. I said, what experts? Caltech? Boulder? The Seismographic Institute? I said, are they saying this? Well, they're all saying. I said, they're saying that a big one could hit. No, but they're saying this could hit an area that hasn't had any. I said, look, Seattle, Mount Rainier, all that is part of the Ring of Fire. I said, ever since I was a kid, it was communicated to me that that is volcanic. It is tectonic, and anything could happen anywhere on that ring, including large earthquakes. I said, we've known that 50, 60, 70 years ago. So I said, now he's coming out saying that one could hit. I said, there was one that hit the New Madrid Fault in St. Louis, or Missouri. And I said, that was substantial. I tried to discuss with her intellectually the Kobe earthquake, the 1989 Candlestick Park earthquake in San Francisco when they had the World Series and the 220 double-decker freeway collapsed, smashing the cars like that. That the Marina District, which is all on landfill, those old turn-of-the-century buildings, literally just slumped over and fell. I think of what one of my viewers said, emotionally driven logic. I am not being rude when I say this, but emotionally driven logic is 99%. Even her own husband has problems with that issue. I went and told him, I said, oh, I opened up Pandora's box. She started saying something about this big earthquake, and I said, you know what, I don't buy that. And he chuckled, and he says, I have told her over and over to stop listening to the news all the time because you're just living in fear. He says you can't win the argument with her, so it's best just to walk. I said, I did. Pacific is not an earthquake expert, but I'm going to tell you I know a huge amount of knowledge about it. I've studied the Japanese findings about cockroach and animal behavior changing before quakes. From building design, the Japanese building high-rises that are on big balls that slide back and forth. The Japanese were the cutting edge of earthquake experts, summa cum laude, and knowing their characteristics. And Japanese people will tell you they can't predict them. We live in an interesting world. The man of the house here will not go to church. He has his own views of things. Doesn't believe in the rapture, doesn't believe in the tribulation, doesn't believe that he believes revelation has already taken place. There's no rational discussion to be had with that at all. I don't. He believes in elements of Calvinism, and he believes that God has rejected the Jews and God's done with them. Suffice it to say, Pacific is wise enough now to walk in and said, well, you know what, I disagree with you. Let's open the floor. He's in his 80s. There are things that I respect and admire about him, but theological prowess is not one of them. Her views consist of speaking in tongues, faith, healing, name it and claim it. Though she has her own medical and physical issues that are getting worse year by year. And I said, you know, if you have enough faith, how come you yourself are not healed? She told me Johnny Harrison Tata must not have had enough faith to come out of that wheelchair. And I said, you got to be kidding me. I said, most of the time you're in bed listening to TV full blast and you're not well. What's your deal? Well, I'm not saying God doesn't allow people to get sick, but it says by his stripes we are healed. And I said, that's not what it's talking about. Oh, yes, it does. You read your Bible. I've read it, and that's not what it's talking about. Fierce independence in Colorado has resulted in everybody thinking that they are the sum total of themselves. I don't need you. I don't want you. I got my little fanny pack. I've got my little dog. I'm at a concert and I'm having a good time and I don't care what anybody else thinks. And you're acting strange. Has it really come to this? Were we made for this? Oatmeal be good food. In 2008, after my first ever flight across the Pacific Ocean to Hong Kong to meet a girl I was literally obsessed and, yes, emotionally driven to. I came back after 2 weeks of the most exhilarating trip, standing on continent that I never thought I would ever in my life go to, let alone be in another country. But the Philippines and Hong Kong and China, and realizing that this girl is sending up so many red flags. Come back to the U.S., started as a sub bus driver in a little town north of Colville. Love my uncle, love my cousin, but can't stand my cousin's wife. A complete, one of the worst house guests you could ever have in your house. Obese, crude, foul, bossy, disrespecting of me, my uncle, people much older than her. raised by a nanny in Peru and spoiled rotten, expecting life to be handed to her on a silver platter. Go to sleep at night, just turn the TV to the far end of the right spectrum of volume. So loud. Come in the bathroom that was up against my bedroom wall, slamming the door, dropping the toilet seat, slamming the drawers, banging everything. I'm like, what does this woman do when she goes potty at 2 o'clock in the morning? If you could be a fly on the wall, I picture some fat woman going, you know, kind of like, what was it, Robots, and that big robot with a big trunk-sized butt comes in and turns around and bangs everything. And I went to my uncle in private when we went to town to go get groceries. I said, you know, I'm being woke up every night by that woman going into that bathroom. He chuckled and he said, that was my bedroom when I bought this house. And when my son and his wife came to move in, they took that bedroom down the hall, and she did the same thing to me. And I came out and said, do you need to make all that noise? I can't help it. No, you slam and you bang things. Do you need to do that? Has anybody noticed that the young generation doesn't feel they have to change a damn thing, but we all got to change for them? I'm going through that with my son. Ultra sensitive about everything. Everybody's supposed to be careful not to offend him, but he just stomps all over people's boundaries, and you have to go, hold on. I looked at the pretty women that were there. They're not smiling. They don't look happy. They don't have the face that says that they're content, settled. They have an edge. And I hate to use this word, but the bitch look. So what is going on in American culture? That even at a concert, no one said hello. Isn't it a beautiful night out? These guys are good. Nothing. No interaction. And the single women out there with their dogs, parading around, dancing, even in a way that I'm embarrassed just watching them going, oh my gosh, that's just wrong. And a song came on and I looked at my friend and I started going. All of a sudden, people all turn around and look, and I'm like, oh, great, I'm being stared at. Wasn't making noise, nothing. And I stopped. In Hong Kong, I had no fear to be myself. With these people, because they're all afraid, I find fear coming into me. Don't stand out here. I have truly come to the conclusion that people are socially retarded. Even my friend that I'm riding with, she's 53 years old. And she's tailgating, and I'm just pushing that imaginary brake pedal and going, my gosh. The SUV stops in front of her SUV, and she's stopping that close to it. I want to say, man, you need to get some space distance between you and these vehicles, man. This woman just went to Ireland. She's got a boyfriend who spoils her. She works as a bus aide. She does not like her job. She spent all year complaining about it. And it dawned on me that every time she gets with me, she goes, yeah, my ex-husband said this and my son said this. And I said, you know what? Don't worry about what they say. If you want a better job, go get a better job. And her son saying, I don't think you should do that. Her ex-husband says, oh, you'll be there 5 years. You don't need to look. You'd be stupid to go get another job. I said, if you feel in your heart you need to make a change and go do it. She had fallen down the stairs, broke her arm. And it's better now, but she still has pain. But every time I'm with her, she doesn't see the silver lining. And yet at the end of the night, she goes, thank you for at least brightening me up. And I'm thinking, I actually brightened you up? And I don't complain when I'm with her. She was complaining about the shootings, the Marines, all the stuff that's going on. And I said, well, I didn't even know about this. Yesterday, I met a black gentleman, 43 years old. Slender, fit, and came to pick up trucks to drive them out to Fontana, California to be shipped to Vietnam. I don't know him. He comes in our office. He looks at me and says, what do you got that gold chain around your neck for? And I'm thinking, never do I walk up to a stranger and say, why are you wearing that? What is... Never. I always say, hi, how you doing? And I greet him, morning, how you doing, sir? Shook his hand, introduced myself. First words out of his mouth. I said, I just like it. Oh, I thought like you were going to get up on stage and perform. I said, no. Took him down to the lot, pointed out the trucks. I got them all started, pulled out, formed in a line, said, now you can deck them, do what you got to do. This one has more fuel than the other one, so you might want to drive that. The other one's right on the nubs. So let me just make sure none of the idiot lights are coming on, and then you're good to go. We spent a few minutes talking. He said he's from Chicago. I said, I've been there a few times, love Chicago. Started talking about this or that, and I don't know how it came up, but something came up about Obama, and I said, you know. Then I finally was bold. I said, not finally, with him I felt I'm going to be bold. I said, you know, Martin Luther King were alive today, he'd say, he'd have a few words to Barack Obama. I said that a man should not be judged by the color of his skin, but the content of his character. I said too many people voted for him simply because of his color. And he looks at me and shocks me by saying, you know, it is what it is, and you're right. He said, I like Obama, but he's a bad politician. And we started talking about things, and he told me about a woman. He says, I've got to take these trucks to California and fly back. I've got a funeral to go to. I said, family? He says, no, good friend. He said, did you hear on the news about the black woman that was arrested for a traffic stop? She made a fast lane change or something, and the police had her down on the ground and had their knees in her back and were standing on her. And she said, hey, you know, you're putting too much force. He said, well, they arrested her. And he said, then 2 days later she died, and they said she committed suicide by putting a bag over her head. He says, brother, I know that woman, and I know she didn't commit suicide. I said, I missed that. He says, it's all over the news. Wow. He looked me right in the eye and he said, I'm ashamed to admit that my own black people are ignorant. And he said, a friend of mine said, what has Obama done since he's in office? And he said, he hasn't made anything better for anybody at all. He said, I know that. He says, I do a lot of reading. I said, did you ever read Native Son? He says, yeah. And he lit up. He says, you read that? I said, yes, I did. He says, let me have your phone number. I'll send you something when I get back. He said, I'll send you a link. He said, we talked about 9/11, and he believes that it was orchestrated by the government. And I thought, oh, one of these. But he did mention a couple things I thought of. He says, a plane goes into a building, Pacific, blows up, the whole building comes down, rubble everywhere, and they still found licenses and pictures and photo ID of the hijackers. He says, you and I both got a license, right? He said, but say we're on the same plane and we go into a building, it explodes, the fireball, burning, building comes down, and you're going to find mine and your license in the middle of all that? He said, did you also notice on some of the videos that when the plane hit up here that there was an explosion down here? He said, did you know Building 7 later on collapsed? And I said, I thought that was from the debris that fell. And he says, no. He said, why did Building 7 collapse? I said, I thought debris from the trade towers fell on it, compromising. And he says, no. He said it was 40 stories and it went down later on in the day. And he brought up some other things. He said, did you notice how fast they got rid of the steel? They said they were going to do a complete investigation, and they shipped that steel off to China. He says, I'm sorry, but I believe it was orchestrated. And then he said something profound. He says, come on, man. If they can get us to focus on racism instead of what's really going on. I said, so you're saying that our government's making news to get us to believe in their agenda? He says, of course. He said, everybody got behind Bush for Saddam Hussein. He says, but the hijackers came out of Saudi Arabia. And I said, that's right. We didn't do anything to Saudi Arabia. He says, man, there was no hijackers. I said, you really believe that? He says, I do. He said, there's too many things that are funny. And I told him, I said, I'll tell you what. I'll reopen this in my mind and be a little more open about this. But I said, it's still hard for me to believe that our government would orchestrate an attack on our own people. And he says, it's all about their agenda, dude. He says, and I don't care who's in the office. He said, to date, all of the presidents. He said, Barack Obama is bloodline connected to Dick Cheney, who's connected to the British royalty. He said, every one of these presidents that have been in office have been connected to some family in Britain. I said, what? Now, I don't know if this is true, viewers. Most Americans, he said that blacks consist of 14% of the American population. I said, that's it? He says, yeah. He says, I've told my black brothers and sisters, said, you know as well as I do that most of you all didn't even go to the polls and vote. He said, most Americans don't even vote. So it's not like we got this big victory. He says, I heard my own kind say, yeah, see, now we got a black man in the office. He says, oh, really? And that matters? I said, have you noticed how he ignores the Congress and the Senate, the House and the Senate? And I mentioned the Supreme Court and their homosexual decision. He says, yeah, a few people can make policy for everybody. He said, now I've got to pay taxes so that they can have same-sex benefits. I said, I have to go. I said, I could talk to you all day. You're an intelligent man. I carry around in me some of the damage that's been done to me by black people and their racism against me. And I tend to think that they're probably all Barack Obama supporters and they're all going to think the black way and whites are just retarded idiots. I didn't get that from him at all. I shook his hand. I said, you have a safe trip. Be careful out there. And nice to talk to you. He says, you too, brother. The internet. It's brought us together loosely. I have a couple people I can contact and a couple people I can communicate with. But there's no substitute for connecting with humans face to face. Facebook, and you really see this show up, and I'm going to be very, very blunt in my opinion here, that American women, more than any other female culture, have become more socially retarded than anywhere I've ever been or heard of. American women like to type out long emails, type out 99 million texts, but they don't want to pick up the damn phone and talk. Social retardation. And why is that? Because this avoids reality. And if you notice, most American women don't want to deal with reality. But neither do men. They hide behind college degrees. They hide behind a trophy wife. They hide behind a sports team or a pickup truck or their stuff or their toys. I confess to my viewers that the thing that scares me is if I was to literally turn off the internet and walk away with it, I'd be like, well, you're not going to have anything then. You'll have a job and you have a place to live, and I'm not going to sit and conversate for 6-7 hours. I woke up at 2:30 this morning. I'm not going to get up and conversate for hours when they're asleep. So what am I going to do if I had no internet from 2 a.m. till time to go to work? Well, you could read a book for 6 hours. No. People have laughed and said, yeah, Pacific can't get off the internet. And the people that are leaving those comments are on the internet, leaving those comments on the internet. It's quite hilarious. I challenge any of us to pull that off and get off of it. My friend last night said she shut down her Facebook account as she found out potential employers will look you up. Colorado is a ghost town. We have more people in Denver Metro than the whole state of Wyoming has. And it doesn't matter if you go to Casper or Cheyenne or anywhere in America now. We are more disconnected from each other now than ever before. People love their cars and trucks. They like their fierce independence. They like holding on to the myth that we don't need each other, yet every piece of that car involved a whole lot of other people, including the infrastructure, roads, traffic lights. And I've always said this when people say, I'm so independent. No, you're not. You make your car, you make your road, you make your own license, you make your own license plate, and you make your own DMV. Every step of the way with any of us, including the internet you sit on, takes a plethora, an army of people to keep it up and running. I mean, it's unbelievable. American women claim to be so independent, but not one of them can make their own bra. Did you know that? They can't sew their own panties. The American women are so independent that they don't depend on the truck driver to deliver the goods to Cherry Creek Mall, to Victoria's Secret where they just shopped, and they don't need the register lady to ring it up. And they don't need to work for the people that gave them the money to begin with. And the building they live in, yeah, they constructed that. The whole thing of independence, and I understand. Women say they don't need men, but yet men made the whole freaking infrastructure that they depend on and take for granted every day. I'm afraid that we're becoming very much like Spock. No offense to my Trekkie fans out here, but nobody wants to have a relationship with Spock unless you're a Trekkie. Notice in Star Trek they're sexless. There's women, there's men. There's no feeling. There's no romance. It's just matter of fact. I watch Americans at a concert scratch their armpit, pet their dog. When they walk by you, they stare, but nothing. They're blank. They're zombies. To me, and this is why I liked Filipina culture, music starts playing, and I can watch my Filipina friend when we're driving in my truck, and she's sitting next to me, and she'll just break out into song. You go to church on Sunday morning with American Christians that claim to be so close to Jesus, and they're looking at the floor and barely singing, including the hot women that think they're all that on a stick. Multi fortresses are gone. A bulwark never failing. I can't even hear the voices of the one next to me. And every Sunday after Sunday, wow, you got a good voice. You should be up there. I don't want to be up there, but thank you. I will not sing in front of an audience of my own people. I will sing with a microphone in my hand when the lights are low in a karaoke bar in Hong Kong before I sing in front of a church. It's intimidating. And as that music was blasting out across the hillside, I reflected on Michael Palin's pole-to-pole travels through the world to get down to Antarctica. It's so different here. And we don't think about that. He's in Ethiopia, he's in Sudan, and he's in villages where their standard of living is so radically different than ours. Dire poverty. And we can go to a concert in Colorado. We don't even engage with each other. Bowling is a dying sport. Tackle and fishing bait stores closing down. My friend who is secularly hip to be squared, financially got it made, says, yeah, something's changing and I don't like it. And then he asked me a question, not in a rude way. He says, what church do you go to? I told him. He says, oh, really? Maybe God is poking on him that, and there are people out there that are not saved, but they're looking at things. They're looking at the culture, and they're looking on back the way things used to be, and they're going, something's happening. And it's alarming. Young women today are so full of themselves, so utterly selfish, so utterly narcissistic, so wrong in their view of themselves. The American women have been so groomed that because they got a pair of breasts that they're showing, they think that that gives them way more right than the rest of us. They don't have to show any of us respect, be it in traffic, in a store. I was telling him, I said, have you gone to these stores? Oh, I was talking to my boss. Yesterday, we had to go and run and get something, and he wanted me to help him with it. And when we were rolling along, I said, have you gone to the stores with these young girls? I'll come up to a checker, and they're bitching to the checker next to her about my boss and the hours. They don't greet me. They don't say hi. Do you notice all these young, slender girls think they're all that on a stick? And I'm going to say something bold that's going to get me in trouble. I'm attracted to beauty, and I've seen girls that are pretty, but I will tell you still. I watched last night, big fat woman, chopped up her hair, and she had frosted white highlights all in it. And I thought, I'm sorry, can I just be in the flesh for a minute? I thought, that looks like shite. Gosh, it just looks like shit. And that woman and her little superficial friends are going, oh, you look so cute. Not only is it not cute, it's just gross, dykish, ugly. Do you notice that about these heavy women that aren't pretty to begin with? They're going to do this to their hair and do that to their hair. And it's like, but you're still the same fat person today that you were yesterday. And I'm going to say it again, Western women are and have destroyed themselves, and they don't know how to take care of the hair that God gave them. They color it, chop it up, and women have confronted me about that, getting very angry, rude, and nasty with FU comments on my channel. And I said, I don't care. Just because you don't have style doesn't mean I don't have a right to say you don't have style. There are women I've seen, I'm like, you're not doing justice to yourself. One of my own fans, pretty girl. She wore a wig. And I saw her in the Facebook picture. I said, wow, you look really good. She has lesbian preferences, I believe, based on what I've seen from her site and what she's shown in there. When she had the wig on, I admit, I thought, my gosh, I would go out with her. She's attractive. But then when I got a response from her, she goes, you see, this is how vain society is. They only notice me if I have long hair, but I wore a wig just like you did. I did that because you wore a wig just like that. But then I saw her other pictures where she had buzz cut the hair and had a little bit of length back hair. Yes, I admit I didn't like the hairstyle. But she still had a pretty face, slender build, and I could see that she still has a ladiness about her. And I tried to communicate with her and tried to say, let's talk. Because I thought, you know what? That people wall themselves off and people keep themselves like this. And I look at women that are pretty and they destroy their hair and they destroy their looks. And then they go the other way. Well, you know what? I'm tired of it. The people look at women with hair. What's wrong with me noticing long hair on a woman saying, dang, that's sexy. That's hot. There's nothing wrong with it. But now you got women that want to go against that and say, you know what? I want to break that stereotype. And I want to shave my head. And wow, then you make yourself look worse. Why? I look at women that are caught up in the piercings and the whole tattoo thing. And I do see a direct link between that and immaturity. A direct link between that and narcissism. A link between bad attitude, stuck up, and look down their nose at everybody. And I'm like, excuse me, but let's back this frickin' bus up where it needs to belong. You're the one that should be looked down on, not me, for being wholesome. I'm sorry, but I come from a time where that was not acceptable, even in most men, let alone girls. And people get mad at me when I say we don't have a lady American culture anymore. We don't. The secretary, one woman in our workplace, I've been nice to her. She's heavy, and I still think that she's pretty faced, pretty. But I've noticed a trend, always and forever in this country. I'm always nice. I greet her every day, good morning. She never comes to me and does that. I always initiate any kindness. Never been rude to her. And the salesman says, the other lock guy called and said he bought you lunch. I said, oh, okay, I know. I tried to call him and he's not answering the phone. She pipes up from the other office, well, if you'd answer your GD phone. I said, I didn't even get a ring. I see 2 missed calls, but I'm standing right here talking to you. It says 131. It's now 132. You're right here. Did you hear my phone ring? Well, like I said, if you'd answer your GD phone. I said, do I need to reiterate this again? It didn't ring. And I called him back when I saw a missed call and no answer. Rude, uncouth, unladylike. And her teenage daughter comes with her to work the other day. Long blonde hair, pretty little thing, but jeans with rips all down in them. That's the style now. She looks at me, hi. I said, hi, my name's so-and-so. And she seemed chirpy and talkative to me. And she goes, yeah, this is my daughter. And no, Pacific would not date teenage girls. But you want to know what's sad? Don't misunderstand me, viewers. It's too bad I couldn't take one of those young people, get them away from all the bad influences, and then when they're of legal age, say, hey, you can be my wife. Because what's happening with the young women today is once they hit adulthood and they get out there in the flow of everything, they're ruined. It's sad. When American women get to be my age, they're just loaded with problems. My friend last night, it's amazing what a shirt and a bra do to a woman. It's amazing the difference that's very noticeable when they don't have a bra and you go, ooh, please wear the bra. My friend shows up last night with no bra on and everything is all the way down to here, nipples poking through, and I'm like, oh, that's not pretty. She's only 4 years older than me. She's skinny. All this is bat wings. She just let herself go because she's lazy. She doesn't work out. She doesn't physically do anything. She sleeps all morning and just slugs. And I've tried to be objective. I've tried to be open. I've tried to be accepting of hard, jaded women, a little bit heavier women. And I find that they're all like this. You go to a concert in Colorado where it's supposed to be, and you could see the band saying, "Come on, everybody, let's have a little party now. Come on, you can get up and dance." And I'm like, they're trying to egg everybody on, but not in Colorado. I'm just going to stand back at the back of the crowd and go, I'm in my own little self-centered world. I don't need to get close to nobody. Why would I want a woman like that? Or a slender woman standing in front of me with her sad-looking little dog, just sitting there with his big puppy dog eyes. And all I see all around me is nothing but blatant insecurity. People that don't have the confidence to even get out of themselves. And I see plethora of teenage girls running around dressed inappropriately. One walking by with nothing but a bra on, dressed like a slut whore. And that angers me. Then I saw something that really got to me. Some tall guy that was about late 30s, early 40s, a cigarette, walked by, smoke blows in my face. And he's got a girl about 8 or 9 years old who's got a tall, long-legged girl who's got a tan. Got a little tiny skimpy bra on, pink, and a hot pink set of shorts. Her butt cheeks are fully exposed, and it's a V right down here. And I'm thinking, what freaking father would let his girl grow up dressing like that? Then the Wash Park group started singing, "Oh, oh, 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 oh. Sex Takes Me to Paradise." If you want to listen to a disturbing song, listen to the lyrics of that. It's almost pirating Christian terminology. Born again. I mean, it's Bruno Mars has an issue with the gospel. That comes through in this song. Listen to the words. I'm not going to give it away. I hate that song. I've always hated it. When it comes on in the bus, I go, "Hey, we like..." I don't want to hear it. That's garbage. It's a good song. I said, it's stupid. There's 3- and 4-year-old kids all over the place. Families. It's funny, I'm an adult site. I have a Tumblr. I warn people about it. And I watch some overzealous Christians go all ape crap over that. Then I'm at a concert. It's supposed to be a family-touted summer of concerts. And they're singing "Your Sex Takes Me to Paradise," that even the group can't stop and go, this probably wouldn't be a good song to sing with all these little kids present. And did anybody get up and said, hey? Nope. There were people older than me with white hair sitting there going in their chairs. And it dawned on me, if you were to go up to those same people and say, "Hey, can I molest your little girl?" They'd be like, 911. But music is the Pied Piper that's lulled us all to sleep. We're zombies. We're retarded. We're stupid. And people think they're enlightened and educated. And I'm here to tell you, no way we're not. Against that backdrop, Pacific and my viewers all live. And some people found things to do to get around it. They go to their jobs, they collect things, they take care of their house. And as I told my boss, we went to his house. It's beautiful. Brand new home. He said across the street over there, that was all dirt. All around me, you could see in all directions. And just in the last year, all this has gone up. Everybody wants a piece of Colorado. His garage was outfitted with woodworking equipment. He's got an O2 Trans Am that's got 19,000 miles on it that he said that that's his toy. He was married for 16 years. And he said, yep, I divorced my wife too, but she goes and tells everybody that I was the bad guy. And I said, that was me. He says, I'll never get married again. Never. He said, I'll date, but he says, I'll never get married. His kids have been all over the world traveling. I get snapshots of people's lives every day, whether it's mechanics, salesmen, my boss, the general manager. And little by little, I'm hearing the same thing from everybody, Christian or non, that this world, that our culture, that our society is fractured. Death threats made against Donald Trump by a Mexican idiot. A druggie. Did you hear about the escape of a drug lord? Went in a shower, went down a hatch, and went into a room in a tunnel and was out of there, worth multiple billions of dollars. It's funny. You call the police on some things. Well, there's nothing we can do about that. Oh, okay, I get it. We're going to wait for a murder or crime to take place before you'll do something. But then somebody's pulled over for a traffic stop and has a knee in their back when they get out of the car and they comply. What the hell is going on with the authorities in our land? And he agreed with me that Michael Brown done screwed up. He said, did you see the video just before that? I said, I didn't. He says, he was an idiot. He says, I'm a black guy. And he says, this is where black people bother me in my own culture, that they always automatically side that it's racism. And he says, this guy was an idiot. I said, thank you. But there is police abuse. I had a cop yelling and cussing at me in Arizona because I had too many people in the back of the truck. There was no need for that. I was totally complicit. I sat there with my head down going, yeah, I blew it. Gave him my license. Complete profanity. If I see you out here again, hey, wait a minute. There's a difference between getting a ticket, but if you see me out here on the streets again, where is that against the law for me to drive my truck later on with nobody in it and I'm following the speed? You got to be kidding me. But I didn't even do that back then. Today I would have said, whoa, wait a minute. Is there a law that says because I got a traffic ticket I can't be out tonight? I said, I have to get up at 2 a.m. to get the papers for the Prescott Courier, sir. Just be aware that I have a job to go to and it involves this pickup. That was way back in 1980. Let me figure this out. 88, 87. Cops are idiots. A lot of cops are just idiots. They're rude, they're arrogant, look down their nose at everybody. And then you find out about all the BS that they're doing. It's unbelievable. What we all have to remember is that police are no better, no different than you and I. They sit on the toilet, they poop, they have fears, hopes, dreams, just like all of us. And unfortunately, a lot of people that get in the police force have bad intentions of getting access to drugs. A lot of police that get in there have a complex. They're human beings. They're not better than us because they're for the PD. They're just not. But I want to focus and close on this, that it's sad how fiercely independent we've become. We don't need each other. We don't have to interact with each other. We can interact with a stupid cell phone. We can interact with a computer screen, but we don't have to interact with anybody anymore. And I see nothing but problems generating on down as a result of that. That the wailing, whining, and crying, and bitching, and complaining that would go on if the entire internet infrastructure shut down and the phone service shut down for 3 weeks. I wonder how people in this country would handle it. Little perspective. You go back to the turn of the century and they didn't have a phone at all. People grew their own farm, raised their own cattle, and milked the cows. Slopped the hogs, ran the tractors, planted crops. Everybody seemed to do just fine. There was no IRAs, there was no health insurance, there was no Social Security. And now, how good is your investment portfolio? Did you know most Americans don't even have one? Would God move more in our lives if we let go of our diaper called the internet, our collective box of Pampers? It's easy to rationalize and justify why we're here, but do we really have the mind and peace of God that says, I'm making a difference by being here? Now, be careful when I say difference. Pacific has had more compromise in his life because of my involvement on the internet, not a closer walk with Jesus. I would be a liar if I said that being on the internet has made me closer to Jesus. When we're driven by emotions, we make bad decisions. My emotion said, I'm lonely. I went for 1 month in Spokane, and I broke down and bought a computer. Because after that thing with Beth, and you got to understand, I came back from Hong Kong, which was so energetic and vibrant. Now, I hadn't lived there. I see Hong Kong differently now. Hong Kong's not a warm, friendly city. Most of the Chinese are obsessed with money. A lot of them have a gambling problem because of their love for money, which is their god ultimately. They're not very accepting of outsiders. The Filipinos were nice, but they've got their motives and agendas as well. Not all, but a lot. A lot of Filipinos I knew were emotionally driven, not intellectually driven. Hard workers and stuff, but every decision they made had to do with emotion, less about intellect. The Chinese are all about intellect and no heart. And a lot of white people can be about intellect and no heart. You see it on Sunday morning in churches. Some people will yell and scream at a damn football game. But in church, they'll sit there when they're singing a hymn. Back on earthquakes. We can't even predict the outcome of a ball game. How in the world can we predict something deep under the earth? I don't care how much machinery you got to monitor this or that. No one can predict an earthquake. I was thinking yesterday, if you grab a whole handful of darts and you throw as many darts as you can, you'll eventually hit the doggone dartboard. You know, if enough people say, well, a big one's coming, a big one's coming. Oh, he's right. He said it and it happened. Well, yeah, you throw enough darts, you'll eventually get it. Doesn't mean he predicted a damn thing. It's called odds. Say it at the right time and the right event happens and there you're a star. I think that people have an ego, including scientists. They want to be the one that they say something, they build it all up, and then when it happens, everybody go, he is God. Yes, he is the Lord. No. Don't think that seismologists, geologists, volcanologists, and all those people don't have an ego. There's doctors out there that want to find the cure for certain things. Trust me. If somebody found the cure for common cold, they'd be a rock star like that. You take this pill the minute you have a symptom and poof, gone. Same with earthquakes. There's always an egotist that wants to stand up and say, I did it. I said it. I did it. I predicted it. God doesn't predict. God knows. Man doesn't. We're just fumbling around trying to find our rear end with 2 hands and a flashlight. We certainly can't predict something that only God knows. But I'm disturbed in my soul when I watch humanity as a people watcher, as a student of people. I go, we're not headed in a good place. There was a teenage girl in the booth behind me. Short little butt-hugging shorts, ripped and torn, kind of like mine, but much shorter. A shirt that rode up to here, boobs pushed out. And I thought, when are these young women going to realize that when I or anybody else looks at them, you just go, that's nice. We got women in this country screaming about people don't care about their heart and what's on the inside. How can we? You're dressed like a slut, look like a slut, walk like a slut. We're going to think you're a slut. People hate it when I say that in this culture. Women can be temptresses and tease us. We can look, but we can't touch. And then they wonder why men are so horny and looking at porn and masturbating all the time. I'll tell you what, there's so many factors that enter into this. And our society of women isn't calling out those women, saying, quit dressing like a sleaze bucket. It does anger me. Because I'm going to tell you something that will really shock people. If you're going to dress like that, then let me touch you, let me feel you, let me enjoy you. Yes, I really believe that. If you're going to advertise, women do it because they're obsessed with themselves. Oh, another bee. Boy, these things are coming in from somewhere. You're done. There you go. There he is. One more time. Wow. These things writhe around for 5 minutes after I hit him 3 times. Viewers, I haven't arrived in my own life, but I believe I'm objective. It's an uncomfortable feeling for a guy wired the way I am. Is that all my life consists of, is just to work and work and work and work? I didn't have fun last night. I felt uncomfortable. It was only an hour and a half. Other than that stupid Bruno Mars song, the group did good. But I thought, man, there's no passion with any of these people out here. Boring white culture. Boring people. Zombies. Not interacting or interrelating with each other. That we can have crowds show up in the U.S., but big deal. We're alone in our little shells. And even I've tried to reach out to some people on the internet who are sad, who are struggling with their own identities, and they just kind of go like this, but yet they love to watch my channel. I'm glad you're here. Some of you I've tried to reach out and simply care, and let you know that, hey, I'm not looking down on you. I need more friends like that too, so that you know you're okay. You're all right. You're normal. This is the world we live in today. This is the way it is. God still loves you. Even if you're a lesbian, even if you're homosexual, even if you're straight. I understand why people get into the things they get into. There's certain things I'm not accepting on. Vultures and predators. Sorry, you're not going to get my thumbs up. And last night, they inject this in the middle of a concert. Yeah, we're Wash Park. Look us up and like us on Facebook. People are so caught up in that. I just want somebody to like me. To my face. Not thumbs up my video or my site. I'd like to see a young lady, an adult, go, you know, I like you. I want to be with you. I just want to ride in your truck and we can listen to music. We don't even have to say anything. But at night, I want you to hold me and hold me tight. And we look at the stars as we lean back on a Colorado night. I really, truly am asking for too much today. You have to pay for that now. You have to spend big money to get that now. When thinking about the kind of a woman I want, she doesn't exist anymore. Because even me thinking about having a relationship with an attractive, nice girl who thinks even remotely like myself, I don't think they're out there anymore. I really have come to the conclusion I am a dinosaur that is nearing extinction. Not a pity party. The last of the Brontosaurus. Ooh. People look at me like I'm weird, and I'm starting to feel like there used to be a time when there was a lot more people like myself. That's why I call myself a dinosaur. My expectations are too high. I need to lower them to accept the fact that if some big fat heifer wants me, why not give it a try? And I'm going, no, please no. Pacific is alone, but not in a way some people are bemoaning that on their own on the internet. I'm alone in a culture that only God gives me the strength to face it. And God has given me the ability to stand back and say, stop being insecure. Start analyzing what's going on in front of you. These people get in their SUVs, got their neat little tidy, boxed in legends in their own mind world, but watch them. They're not interacting. They're not interpersonal. They're dead. They're self-absorbed. They can't come out of their shells. Like that woman with the turtle. Slow down. These people are turtles. They just sit there and no interaction, no pizzazz, nothing. If there was a bunch of Filipinos at that concert, we would have all been up dancing and having fun. But not white Americans. No way. This is Pacific signing off. Have a wonderful Friday, everybody. Bye-bye.